What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Realms of Metal. Eddie here, back with you from my happy place, my metal room here in the woods in PA. What's going on, man? We just had a fucking earthquake here in the Northeast about an hour ago. I'm sitting here getting ready for the video, and everything in the room started shaking. And that's no bullshit. I thought I was about to get possessed by a demon. Turns out it was an earthquake. So pretty rare for up here in the Northeast. I was told it got felt all the way up to Boston, out to Ohio, out to Long Island, down in New Jersey, all over the place. So it's crazy. But what are we doing here today, man? We're doing another love 'em or hate 'em video. This is going to be number 3 in this series. Everybody seems to be enjoying it. I'm having fun doing it. I got another 6 bands for you. We're going to talk about why these bands are either loved or hated, seem to be one or the other. And just looking at this list of bands, I don't really hate any of them. I'm not going to tell you I'm a fan of all of them because I'm not, but I don't hate any of them. And even the ones that I like, there's stuff that I like and dislike about the ones even that I like. So let's get at it. Let's get to the first band. Let's start with Mötley Crüe. You knew Mötley Crüe had to be on here if you watched this channel. The banter that Ant and I had back and forth back in the day about Mötley Crüe and Dancing on Glass and all that shit. But formed in 1981 in Los Angeles, California. They have 9 full lengths. Their musical style is like glam rock, hard rock, some elements of heavy metal, particularly on the older stuff. I would say more heavy metal, like Shout at the Devil. So what do we got here? Why do people love Mötley Crüe? Many people say it was their gateway band into hard rock heavy metal. I I agree with that 100%. I remember being a kid and hearing Shout at the Devil for the first time. I was probably like 8 years old. I was at a cousin's house and looking at the album cover. Shout at the Devil was like the most evil thing that I had seen at that point in my life, and I thought it was like satanic. Being a kid. And I have vivid memories of that record and listening to that record when I was a kid, and like way before I was a metalhead. It was a record I had before I considered myself a metalhead, and it's a great record, man. So yeah, I would agree with that their Mötley Crüe were a gateway band for a lot of people. They wrote some classic tunes, that's for goddamn sure. I wouldn't say anything modern is considered either remotely good or classic, but I mean, looking at their old records, man, they have written some fucking bangers, boy. Live Wire, Piece of Your Action, Take Me to the Top, Shout at the Devil, Looks to Kill, Too Young to Fall in Love, Knock 'em Dead Kid. That riff to Knock 'em Dead Kid is so fucking good. And I gotta be honest with you, I listen to Mötley Crüe now, and I'm a bigger fan now more than I ever was, really, because a while back we went to see this Mötley Crüe tribute band called Red Hot. It was an all-girl tribute band, and they were fucking awesome. They brought the house down, and they totally got me back into Mötley Crüe. I've been listening to the old Mötley Crüe a lot since I saw them. They're more Mötley Crüe than Mötley Crüe are these days. I got to be honest with you. They were they were so good, but definitely wrote some classic tunes, meaty riffs on those old tracks. You can't beat it, man. Just fun tracks to listen to. People love the rock and roll attitude and the party lifestyle that a lot of those bands had back then, especially the glam rock bands. I get that. They love Mick Mars's guitar tone. I love that too. We're just talking about some of those old meaty fucking riffs of those old Mötley Crüe tracks. The live show everybody raves about. I saw Mötley Crüe live once. That was on the Dr. Feelgood tour in the record was 89, but I saw him in 1990, I think. And that was a great show. One of my probably my first big, rock/metal show. It was Mötley Crüe with Tesla and Johnny Crash, I think, and I had a great time, loved it. So what do people hate about Mötley Crüe? They hate Nikki Sixx's ego. According to some people and to him himself, it's like he alone is responsible for Mötley's success they've had up to this day. He's one of those guys. I've never met any of the Mötley guys. I can't tell you here or there, but he does seem like you have an ego, but a lot of these guys do. So That doesn't bother me. It does bother some people. Uh, People hate that they changed their style to grunge in the mid 90s with the self-titled Mötley Crüe record in 1994 to kind of like fit in. I don't like that record. I never did. And I listened to it the other day just to kind of get a feel for it again. I don't like that record at all. I think it sucks. You know, that's the John Corabi record, right? Vince Neil wasn't on that record. I don't like it. What do people hate? They were caught using backing tracks for the drums on some live shows. And when Mick Mars got kicked out of the band, you know, he pretty much confirmed it in interviews that they were using backing tracks for everything, and he didn't like it. You know, so that's kind of shitty. You know, like the treatment of Mick Mars being kicked out of the band, I totally agree. You know, Mick Mars belongs in Mötley Crüe. John Five is the guitar player now for Mötley Crüe, and don't get me wrong, he's super talented, you know, but I think Mick Mars belongs in Mötley Crüe. That's just me. Some bands bitch that they haven't had a good record since 1989. I'm probably one of those guys. I completely agree that they have not. You tell me what's good from after Dr. Feelgood. There were some decent tracks on that Decade of Decadence compilation that they put out, particularly Primal Scream. That was a great fucking track. But what have they done? You know, I mean, they're almost a nostalgia act at this point. Like, what Mötley Crüe needs to do is come out with a strong record, like now, to like shut people like me up. You know, that's what they need to do. I would love to hear. I got to be honest with you. I don't think they have it in them. Maybe John Five can inject some life into the band that they were missing. Like, who the fuck knows? But so right now, I think they're very similar to Guns N' Roses, that they're a nostalgia act. And believe it or not, I think Mötley Crüe, when you put all the old stuff up against Guns N' Roses' entire catalog, is better than Guns N' Roses. I got to be honest with you. I think they've wrote better songs, more quality of songs, quantity of songs. That's just me. Everybody picks on Vince Neil, and I'm kind of guilty of that myself. Like, he can't seem to sing the lyrics right. It's like, hey ho ho ha ho ho. You know, I did it in another video, and it's kind of fun to watch and see what people think that he's saying. But I say that, and you know, I've always had a soft spot for Vince Neil, mainly because, you know, he lost his daughter at 4 years old. You know, so I put myself in issues. Like, if I had lost a daughter to cancer at 4 years old, man, you know, you have to put me in a straitjacket. You know, honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to go on. You know, I would have just lost my mind completely. So, I mean, props to him for going on. I feel sorry for him. Like, it sucks that anybody would have to go through that. So I kind of have a soft spot for Vince Neil, even though I rag on him a little bit. But you know, that's kind of what people love or hate about Mötley Crüe. Myself, my own opinion. You let me know what you think. You love him, you hate him, you in the middle. I love the old Mötley Crüe now more than ever, to be honest with you. So let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about the next band. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm going to give you a couple hints. Maybe we'll do a sing along. This will be like our first sing along in the history of the Realms of Metal. I'll give you some hints. When they're in town, speakers explode. They don't attract wimps because they're too loud. Just true metal people. That's this band's crowd. You know who I'm talking about. Fucking Manowar. Manowar is definitely a love 'em or hate 'em band. You got to see all the online hate towards Manowar, and the people who love them, it's completely opposite. Everybody who, what they love about Manowar or they hate about Manowar, you know. So we'll get into some of the stuff they hate. Formed in 1980 in Auburn, New York. They have 11 full lengths. I didn't include the re-releases of Battle Hymns and Kings of Metal, which they re-released both of those records. Completely unnecessary too, by the way. They are traditional heavy metal with elements of power metal. A lot of people say that they influenced power metal going forward. I totally agree with that. Some of their tracks. What do people love about Manowar? They love that they're loud, and they're fucking loud. They're brash. They're in your face. They don't give a fuck what you think. And I love that about them. I've never met any of the guys of Manowar. And to be honest with you, from interviews and stuff that I've seen, fan interactions, I don't really want to, because it might soil my image of Manowar. Uh, I'd hate to like meet one of the guys like Joey or Eric and find out they're a conceited douchebag and then like think differently of them. So I'm glad I've never met them. I've only gotten to see him once. I got to see him in New Jersey at a club. They played the whole Battle Hymns record top to bottom. It was fucking packed. He couldn't even move. Uh, it wasn't my favorite show from that standpoint, but that's the only time I ever saw Manowar. So that was, I forget what year that was. I had to go through my ticket stubs, but people love the cheesiness of their songs and lyrics. I love that too. That's the reason why people hate them, to be honest with you. I think that they're brilliant songwriters. These guys write metal fucking anthems. And when I started doing the part 3 of this and I decided I was going to do Manowar, I've been listening to Manowar all week. I'm fully engrossed in Manowar right now. I've been listening to Manowar, the whole catalog, top to bottom, and I'm like loving every second of it. Not that everything they've done is gold, like especially the later stuff. This, the early stuff all the way up until like the mid 90s is so fucking good though. Like I said, metal anthems, battle hymns, Blood of My Enemies, All Men Play on 10, Fighting the World, The Gods Made Heavy Metal, Black Wind, Fire, and Steel, Warriors of the World United. Like, how great is that? The bass line, dun, 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 dun. Like, that is so good. Hail and Kill, Kings of Metal, Brothers of Metal. Like, the lyrics to Hail and Kill fucking kill me, man. Like, may your sword stay wet like a young girl in her prime. Hold your hammers high. Like, you gotta have some balls to write lyrics like that and put them out. I'm telling you, it's so fucking good, so entertaining. They love Eric Adams' vocals. I totally agree. He's the perfect metal singer in my book. Got great pipes, just commands the stage. I love Eric Adams. I gotta be honest with you. So what do people hate? A lot of people hate the same things they love about them, the cheesy songs and lyrics. You either love it or you hate it. It's one of those things. Manowar is one of those bands you have to embrace when it comes to that stuff. Almost like a Conan the Barbarian movie. Like, I don't know. You have to accept it and take it in, then you'll love it, They say the band members come off as conceited, particularly Joey DeMeo. Like I said, I've never met any of the guys. That's probably 100% true. I don't know. The way they dressed in the 80s, people hate it. Fur and leather, almost like Conan the Barbarian type of shit, the way they dressed in the 80s. People hate it. They think it's cheesy. I think it's cool. I mean, they don't dress like that anymore. But they wear jeans and leather, not Cracker Jack clothes. They hate fans filming them at the shows and taking pictures. Apparently, they've had their security confiscate cameras and shit, which I didn't know. Who knew? But that kind of sucks. I mean, if somebody wants to, buy a ticket to your show, I mean, they can record on their phone. As far as I'm concerned, like, who cares? Manowar's output since the mid 90s is the same: basic chord patterns and structures. Yeah, I listened to some of the later Manowar, and I get that. I mean, the later era stuff is definitely not as good as the 80s to mid 90s stuff, for sure. And they also say Joey DeMeo is a control freak. On a couple other videos, we talked about control freaks. We talked about Tobias Forge. We talked about Dave Mustaine. They have a vision for the band, and they go with it. And, you can't argue with Joey DeMeo either. If he's had a vision for the band, it's worked. I mean, they're huge, especially in Europe. Like, for Christ's sake. Interesting note on Manowar, Michael Angelo Battillo is now the guitarist for Manowar. We talked about him many times here on the channel. I talked about him a couple of videos ago when we were talking about that band Nitro from California. The guy with Jim Gillette on vocals who has those ultra high, those falsetto vocals. He's now the guitarist for Manowar. He's a very talented player. So what I'm hoping is like he's injecting new life into that band, and I'm like praying to God, the metal gods, that Manowar comes out with, that they're writing new material and they come out with this slamming fucking metal record with good songs on it. Like, I'm really hoping for that. I don't know if it's true. I tried looking around to see if I could find where Manowar were writing new music, and I really couldn't. But with him in the band, I'm kind of hoping that they are. So, we'll see what happens. So there you go, Manowar. Do you love him or hate him? Let me know. Wimps and posers, leave the hall. Who we got next? Let's talk about Def Leppard. I love the old Def Leppard. Just like Mötley Crüe, Def Leppard was a band that I listened to even as a little kid before I was a metalhead. I had Pyromania, I had High and Dry on cassette. I love those two records. Honestly, Pyromania is like a soundtrack to my youth. Like, that's how much we listened to it. We used to like hang out in my room and put it on the cassette deck and play air guitar, like kids do, pretending we were Def Leppard in my room. And I have fond memories of that record. They formed in 1977 in Sheffield, England. They have 12 full lengths. Their musical style is, when they came out, new wave of British heavy metal, transitioned to hard rock, and even into poppy stuff later on, which we'll get into. But what do people love about Def Leppard? People say they're legends. I totally agree. I think they're legends too. I think they're a legendary band. I only got to ever see them once. I think that was on the Adrenalize tour, and they were great. I had a fucking phenomenal time. The set list was great. And Adrenalize to me was like the last record. I mean, it wasn't a great record, Adrenalize, in all honesty, for me, but it had some decent tracks on it. And that was kind of like the last Def Leppard record I ever bought. I forget what came after that, whether it was Slang or what. I don't even know what the fuck it was, but I didn't like the Def Leppard after that. It was way too commercial and too poppy for me. And I stuck to the old stuff, into the 80s and the early 90s. I think they're amazing songwriters. They've written some fucking phenomenal tracks, all the way up to, Hysteria and Adrenalize. There's some really good stuff on Adrenalize too. They love Joe Elliott. I totally agree. Great voice, great front man. I mean, he's older now. I mean, people are picking on him now because he can't sing like he used to. Like, who can? Everybody gets older, I don't hold that against him one bit. They cite Rick Allen as an inspiration, one-arm drummer. I totally agree with that, man. He kind of is an inspiration. I enjoy his drumming. They like Phil Collins and Vivian Campbell. Totally agree. Two super talented guitar players. And for me personally, I just had to throw Pyromania on here because, like I said, it's one of my favorite records ever. It's a record I had before I was a metalhead. To me, Pyromania is the best record of 1983. And I know a lot of good records have come out in 1983, landmark records. But for me, Pyromania is my favorite, regardless of any genre. Like, we had Kill 'Em All and Show No Mercy. We had Shadow the Devil. We had Melissa. We had Into Glory Ride, Manowar, we just talked about. Peace of Mind, Holy Diver, Bark at the Moon, See You in Hell. We had some great records in 1983. Killer records. But Pyromania kind of holds a special place in my heart. It's so good top to bottom. It's a 10 out of 10 record for me. And I still love it to this day. I really do. So what do people hate about Def Leppard? They hate the commercial success, really starting with Hysteria. I remember when Hysteria came out, it was all over the place. I mean, you couldn't walk 5 seconds and not hear Pour Some Sugar on Me, somewhere on the radio, on MTV. It was all over the place. They regard them as sellouts. I guess, I don't hold that against Def Leppard. They got too poppy after Hysteria. I totally agree with that. I really do. But they're getting older. I mean, maybe they just weren't as angry as they were when they were younger. A lot of these bands kind of fall into that, right? I don't know. Not that Def Leppard was ever angry, but maybe they lost a little bit of their edge, I would say. And I get that. People say it's fun to hate on Def Leppard. Like like when you walk into a room and you have a Def Leppard shirt on, which I do. I should have worn my Def Leppard shirt for this, but hail Spellgrinder too. Spooky at Spellgrinder. Check out Spellgrinder. If you walk into a room with a Def Leppard shirt, people kind of look at you like you're a poser, or they're kind of like false metal or false rock or whatever it is. A lot of people look down on Def Leppard and their fans, and gives a fuck. I don't get that. Ain't no elitist shit going on here with me. Like, I don't care what you think about me. I love the old Def Leppard. Tough shit. So that's kind of stupid. A lot of people say they fizzled out when Steve Clark passed away. There may be some truth to that. I don't know. He's missed for sure. A lot of people say, especially with the newer stuff, that they write the same songs over and over again, starting with Slang. And Slang was 1996. So I don't listen to a lot of the modern Def Leppard. I thought that the self-titled one was decent, the one that came out a few years ago. The one that they just released, I forget the name, Diamond Halos or whatever it was. I really didn't care for that one. So, it's just kind of like my take on Def Leppard. I am a fan, particularly of the older stuff, like I said, into the early 90s. Love High and Dry, love Pyromania. Hysteria, it's a poppy record, yes, but the songs are good, so let me know what you think on Def Leppard. You love them or hate them? I'm in the middle. There's things I love about them and things I not really hate, but just kind of dislike. So here you go. Let me know what you think. Let's go to Lamb of God. A lot of love or hate with Lamb of God. They formed in 1999 in Richmond, Virginia. They're labeled as kind of like a groove metal band. They have 9 full lengths out. And, they're a super popular band. And, of course, with any of the more popular bands, they're going to get a lot of hate just because they're popular. What do people love about Lamb of God? They cite them, newer generations of metal fans cite them as the band that got them into metal. So I get that. I totally get that. I don't disagree with that one bit. Like, I've seen Lamb of God a ton. Jesus, I've probably seen them at least 9 or 10 times. And I've never gone to see Lamb of God to see Lamb of God. They were always opening for somebody, or they were on a fest, like an Ozfest or Gigantor. The first time I seen them opening for Guar at a club, and nobody knew who they were. And me and my friends were watching them, and I watched their set, and that was like New American Gospel-ish area, right? It had to have been. And when the set was done, I said to my buddy, I'm like, they're okay. I said, they remind me of a mix between like Testament and Pantera. I said that even way back then, even before they, blew up and got big. And, that's kind of like the case. To me, they're more of a Pantera than a Testament. I mean, I don't know. I love the Wake Up Dead cover, especially they did it with Mustaine. So any band who covers Megadeth is aces with me, so I love it. I think they did a great job. They love Randy Blythe as a frontman. He's a good frontman. They love Chris Adler's drumming, and he's not even in the band anymore. I think he left due to musical differences. He thought it was a toxic environment for him to be in. He wanted to go in another musical direction than the other guys, so he ended up leaving. But that's kind of what people love about Lamb of God. What they hate about them is they sound generic. And I don't know if they sound generic. I mean, I get what people are saying. People said the same shit about Pantera. And, if Lamb of God reminds me of Pantera a little bit, then maybe that's the case. I really think that when Pantera disbanded, that was in the early 2000s. They broke up in like 2000 or 2001. Lamb of God eventually became the replacement Pantera, and I think that's where a lot of their popularity came from. There was no Pantera. They were the closest thing, and people latched onto them, and they got big. That's just an opinion. A lot of the stuff that they wrote back then was very Pantera-ish, songs like Redneck, people say that they are boring. I mean, I've seen them a bunch. I don't think they're boring. I'm not a huge fan, but I don't think they're boring. I don't think they have a boring live show. I think their live shows are decent. They call it metal for meatheads or jock metal, which I totally get. If you look at the people who go to see Lamb of God and are Lamb of God fans, they're these fucking meatheads that would maybe not normally listen to metal. Maybe they were Pantera fans and now they're Lamb of God fans. I get what you're saying. I get what people are saying about that. It's not your traditional metalhead, your metalhead in a long sleeve tee, like a death tee or, a deicide tee or something like that at the shows. It's these jock type dudes. I get that. I've seen it firsthand. I've even talked about it to my wife. I'm like, man, their fan base is just, it's odd, but if they're out enjoying it, let them enjoy it. Like I said, the replacement Pantera, I've always thought that about Lamb of God, and I have seen it online, people talking about them. So maybe I was on to something. People say they're too popular. That's just stupid, whether a band's popular or not, whether you hate them or not. That's kind of my take on Lamb of God. Don't love them, don't hate them. I used to have all their stuff on CD, but I ended up selling it. I sold a lot of my stuff when I was sick. I was sick years ago and I had medical bills to pay, and I sold a lot of my stuff. That I only kept the stuff that was near and dear to my heart. And I sold my entire Lamb of God discography to somebody. And I don't have anything physical from Lamb of God. All I have is the digital. And to be honest with you, I don't listen to it very often. Like I said, I don't hate them. It's just they've never been my band, never been a band I've latched onto. Like them, respect them, listen to them here or there, don't love them. So let me know what you think of Lamb of God. You love them, you hate them, you don't give a fuck. It's all good. Got two more to go. And I felt like I had to include this band, not necessarily a metal band, but I mean, teetering the line between hard rock, alternative rock, and that's Pearl Jam. Definitely a love them or hate them band. They formed in Seattle, Washington in 1990. They have 12 full lengths. And like I said, they're like grunge / alternative rock. And to me, like after the whole grunge thing kind of faded out, those grunge bands are really nothing more than alternative rock or alternative metal, more like alternative rock to me. Grunge was just a label that everybody put on them. They were all coming from Seattle. And, to me, grunge and alternative rock is the same thing, and then even dabbling into hard rock on some of their stuff, which I agree with. What do people love about Pearl Jam? They think that they're brilliant songwriters and they think they're brilliant lyricists. I don't know. I like Pearl Jam's 10. That was the first Pearl Jam record that came out. I was in high school. And even me being the hardened metalhead that I was, I still bought that CD and liked it. And I didn't tell all my friends about it, that's for sure. But I did buy it and like it. So I think it's a great record. I think the songs are fucking amazing on that record. I really do. They love the live shows, and I can't give any insight on that. I've never seen them live, never had any desire to. But if you've seen Pearl Jam live, let me know what you thought. They love like I said, the lyrical content. They think their lyrics are brilliant. I haven't read enough Pearl Jam lyrics to agree or disagree either way. Like I said, 10's a brilliant record. What do people hate about Pearl Jam? They hate the popularity. It seems to be a common theme on why people hate these bands, especially the bigger bands. If they're too popular, too mainstream, they can't like them, they hate them. It's just stupid. They call them generic rock. Yeah, I mean, I have listened to some of the later Pearl Jam stuff. Some of it's okay, some of it's not okay. Some of it does sound kind of generic for me. They're a pretentious band with pretentious fans, possibly. I don't know. They're a band that seems to be made fun of a lot. They're the butt of some jokes, like Adam Sandler on Saturday Night Live doing Eddie Vedder. That's a hilarious skit. You had the Family Guy skit where I remember I used to be, hey, like everything was, hey, making fun of Eddie Vedder. I thought that was pretty good, actually. I love the old Family Guy. They're so good. Uh, Funny high school story, being in high school and being like, watching the preppy kids come in with Pearl Jam shirts, like cracked me up. Like being metalheads and sitting in the back of the room, and then you see these preppy kids come in with these Pearl Jam shirts, and they think they're all cool because they're wearing their Pearl Jam shirts, and we're in the back with our Slayer and Exodus shirts on, like laughing our ass off at these kids. I just thought that was a funny story. I could think of one kid in mind too, walking into class with a Pearl Jam shirt, and he's all high and mighty with his Pearl Jam shirt, and we're all in the back fucking making fun of him. But pretty cool. I don't hate Pearl Jam. I don't love them either. Like I said, I love 10. I even have a couple of the later records, which are hit and miss for me. Do you like Pearl Jam? What do you like about them? What do you hate about them? Let me know. So, last but not least, I felt like this is a band I had to include on here. And I told you in the first video that I wasn't include a lot of new metal stuff, but I feel like this is one of those polarizing bands that needed to be on this series. And that band is Slipknot. So definite love them or hate them band. Formed in 1995 in Des Moines, Iowa. They got 7 full lengths. They're listed as /new metal /alternative metal, which I get. I think they're new metal. I think that they might be a little bit more aggressive than your standard new metal band like Korn or Limp Bizkit or some shit like that. They might be a little heavier than that, but they're an important band. Am I a pro Slipknot fan? No, I never was. In fact, the first time I heard of Slipknot, I was living in New England at the time. We went to see a show. My wife and I went to see a show. We were dating at the time, and we went to see Biohazard. And this dude was wearing a Slipknot shirt, and we were standing next to him, like, "Who the fuck is Slipknot?" Like, he's and the kid was going crazy. "Oh, you got to check him out." I'm like, "Well, what style of music?" It's thrash, 100% thrash. I'm like, thrash, okay, And after that show, I did go and check him out. I'm like, this guy was smoking some shit, man. Like, this ain't thrash metal. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So it was like 97, 98, the first time I ever heard Slipknot. And then I went back and checked them out after that show. And they didn't really do much for me, got to be honest with you. What do people love about them? They love the masks, the whole getup of the masks. I don't give a shit either way. People love that about them. That's also something they hate about them. But is it a gimmick? Is it not? They love their live shows. Never saw them live. Never wanted to. Like I said, I was never into Slipknot. If you've seen Slipknot live, let me know what you thought of them. I do have friends that are Slipknot fans. They love the aggressive, their aggressive music. They say it's super aggressive. And I listened to the first Slipknot a little bit. It is pretty aggressive. Like I said, it doesn't do a heck of a lot for me, but to each their own. They love Corey Taylor. He is kind of like a new ambassador for metal. He's very outspoken, which I like about him. But when it comes to his opinions, I don't really honestly pay too much attention. Or I know he's a fan of the old school metal bands, and I like that about him. He's like a fan, just like us. He's when he tours with bands, he likes to meet other artists and tell him that he was a fan from when he was a kid. And I do the same shit, so I can kind of empathize with him on that. But I do like that about Corey Taylor. If let's get into the hate first before I go on that. What do people hate about Slipknot? Again, too popular. Very stupid reason to hate on a band. They're really one of the biggest metal bands out there. People hate them because they say they're noisy and they're all over the place. Heavy metal's noisy. What are you gonna do? If that's too much for you, then bow the fuck out. They say Corey Taylor is a douche. Who knew? I don't know. Is he a douche? I don't know too much about him other than what I just said. So not really sure about that. They hate the masks, as much as people love the masks, some people hate the masks. They say they ripped off the masks from a band called Mushroom Head. which is, I guess, is a band similar to Slipknot, who was formed before Slipknot, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know much about Mushroom Head. I can't say I've ever listened to one song, but that's what they say. They ripped off Mushroom Head, and they're a gimmick band by wearing the mask. You know, they wear the mask to get attention. I can't hate on a band for wearing masks. I mean, I remember being a kid and listening to Gwar for the first time, the Salaminizer, you know, looking at the album cover and looking at that album cover, you know, I had no idea that that's what they actually dressed like, you know, till I checked them out and saw pictures, and it was before the internet. So and then I eventually saw Gwar live, and they blew me out of the water. So I don't mind bands and masks and costumes and stuff as long as they're good, you know, as long as I like their music, you know. So they call it a marketing ploy. It's possible, you know, but hey, you know, they're definitely one of the bigger metal bands going out there right now, you know. So people hate their fan base, and that leads me to my next one here. You know, I can't say that I hate Slipknot fans. You know, I'm not a fan myself, but I would never hate, you know, a fan base unless it's like a Rammstein fan base. Sorry, Pete, but just looking at Slipknot, like if I was a young kid, if I was like 13 years old and, you know, Slipknot, I just heard the first Slipknot record, you know, that would probably jive with me, you know, being a young, you know, kid, you know, full of piss and vinegar, looking for the most aggressive shit I can find, you know. If I was younger, that band would resonate with me, you know. Being in my 40s, you know, it just doesn't do it for me, you know. So that's kind of how I feel about Slipknot. If I was younger, I might be more of a fan, but as an older dude now, it doesn't resonate with me. I don't get it like I would have as a kid or as a teenager. So that's kind of how I feel about it, you know. I just don't relate to them at all, in all honesty. So that's kind of what I like and dislike about Slipknot. Like I said, I'm not a fan. I don't know any of their stuff. So let me know what you think of Slipknot. Definitely a love or hate them band. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Let me know what you think. And that's all I got today. 6 more bands in the books. I got another bunch of bands to do here. And like I said, this has been a lot of fun going through these bands. I love them or hate them. And it's been a fun series so far. It's getting a good response. So thanks for hanging with me at the Realms of Metal here on a Friday. And we'll see you guys again real soon. Got some killer stuff in the works, including an interview next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys again real soon.